Ladies and gentlemen, we have made it. The start of Indiana football is here, and we get realistic expectations of why the Hoosiers could go back to the playoffs.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. And we welcome in our man, Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football for today. And later on in the year, he'll be a host of a different show on the network. But for today, he is a college
That's
football.
my alter ego.
Today, I was going to say you're a college football expert, but maybe I'll scale it back to a college football fan. He joins our show today as we are getting you ready for Indiana and Old Dominion. The season is here tomorrow. But Spencer, we talked to you about the teams from the conference that can make the college football playoff and realistic expectations for Indiana. We know what last year was the best season in program history. From the outsider perspective, how does college football view this Indiana team this year?
I legitimately can't start without pointing out that you are full HD at the moment. I see and hear you perfectly clear. We spent 5 minutes trying to figure this out, and the moment we start recording, it starts working. Is that a good sign for Indiana's season? It might be, because even in the open, I thought it was a little blurry, and then all of a sudden it just works. I don't get how that goes down. I do understand how Indiana is a good team this year because I like what they have on the offensive line. I think when most people outside of Bloomington think about the program, they are rightly thinking about Curt Cignetti and some bombastic quotes and the quarterback play, throwing the ball down the field, scoring a bunch of points like they did last year. All of that is fair. I think the Indiana defense is really underrated. And I think if they're going to get back to the playoff this year, that unit can't take a sizable step back. I don't have the same hopes for Fernando Mendoza that you do, or I'm sure plenty of the Indiana faithful do as well. I think he's fine. I think you can win games with him. I think you can maybe get a little more out of him than what you had at Cal. I don't know if he's that guy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think he's closer to a bridge quarterback than a potential Heisman finalist like Curtis Rourke was on track to be last season. But, in terms of the college football playoff, that has to be 10-2. I mean, 9-3, you'd get consideration. We saw that last year. I don't know if Indiana, if they were to lose 3 games, those games would probably be where Oregon and Purdue,
Penn
obviously.
State. Yeah, in your book, it's Oregon, Penn State, and Illinois, apparently.
That is correct. And if those are the 3 losses, I don't know if the wins are there at 9-3. That's different than last year when it was 11-1 and they were beating the brains out of everybody that they played. And I'll just remind Hoosier fans, I was a proponent of Indiana getting into the playoff and have defended them at every step of the turn. They had the smallest margin of defeat in the first round of the college football playoff last year. But I digress.
Hang the banner.
Hang it up. Lost by less than everyone else in the first round.
Give us a ring, baby. Give us a ring.
Hey, man. I think the Mariners should put up a banner for the Vetter Cup, which is a brand new name based on some performer with ties to 2 cities, Seattle and San Diego, because they won the series with the Padres. Put the banner up, man. There's nothing else up in the rafters. Why not?
You poor soul.
I know. It's bad. So I think for Indiana this year, I think a playoff goal or hope is reasonable. I don't believe a playoff expectation is reasonable. As great as last year was, look at what happened to Lincoln Riley over at USC. Yeah. He came in 11-1, Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback, didn't win the conference championship game, of course, missed the 14 playoff. And in the 2 years that came after that, he's taken a step back each of those years. Last year, 6-6 in the regular season. The year before, 7-5. Well, if you'd made those predictions after USC's 2020 was 2 season, what would you have been called? A hater? Ridiculous? Crazy? Absurd? These things take time. And Indiana has just laid a huge foundational piece of building a perennially playoff caliber program this past year. We'll see if they're ready to take the jump. We know they won't be tested until they play Illinois in their first 3 games of the year. No disrespect to the Old Dominion Monarchs, but it's going to be ugly on Saturday for them.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about Old Dominion later on in the episode. You said a couple of things there that I do want to kind of mirror and reiterate. The fact that Indiana is building a program. This is not a one-hit wonder, and I don't think you are in that boat either. I think Curt Cignetti's a legit coach who's out recruiting. Indiana has consistently been a top 30 recruiting class in 2026 since the beginning of it and tracking to be that when it's all said and done. Plus, Indiana's putting more money to football than other Big Ten schools are around them for a historical basketball school, Spencer. That's what's crazy with all the revenue sharing and things like that. Some of the numbers are starting to leak out, and the Hoosiers are putting money into the football team, into the football program, into the revenue-generating sport. There's no reason that Indiana should go anywhere, and that can be in 2025 as well. But are folks buying down on Indiana because the talent isn't there, in your opinion, or because of the true inevitable step back that everybody likes to talk about?
I really do think it's both. If you'd asked me without, the leading question there, what are the 2 reasons? Those would be the 2 reasons. But right. I think that for Indiana, they are on an upward trajectory. And let's say, over on Locked On College Football, I predicted them to go 9-3 because Curt Cignetti does win a lot of games, and Fernando Mendoza is a solid quarterback. And I do like some of the guys they have coming back, like Elijah Surratt. I love the Pat Coogan addition at center. That's a really underrated move in the Big Ten transfer portal world because it's not a big splashy name, and it's also not a big splashy position necessarily. So I think they have done some good things. It's just that the teams they're going up against are also in positions to really thrive this year. So I think that, the schedule being a little bit tougher is part of the reason I say, yeah, okay, you popped and flashed one year, but it's just not going to be as easy. But I also can't overlook the fact that Indiana was a doormat program in the Big Ten, and then all of a sudden they're in the college football playoff, one win from going 12-0 and playing for a Big Ten championship. Like, I can't just discount the staff. Lincoln Riley doing it at USC is one thing. Indiana? Are you kidding me? Like, that right. That requires an ingrained level of respect for the staff and the level of production that they do have returning that I don't think results in a 6-6 regression sort of year. I think they are still good. It's just that, the games against Penn State and Oregon, and I think Illinois is a really good team as well. We know that's what you think. We know. We know. But here's what I'll say. If they beat Illinois, preseason number 12 team in the country, and only lose to Penn State and Oregon, you will find me at the front lines lobbying for Indiana to get into the playoff, provided they don't drop another game. Yeah. And they perform against inferior competition like they did last year, which was kind of their calling card, right? They had an average margin of victory in those 11 wins of around 33 points per game, and then they just lost to Ohio State. And the point I made last year is one I would make again this year, which is if it was a maize and blue M on the side of the helmet, or a scarlet and gray O, or heck, a green and yellow O for that matter, instead of the red IU, you wouldn't hesitate, college football world, but you do because it's Indiana. So Illinois is a good team, and I don't have the rest of their schedule memorized off the top of my head, but I believe those are the toughest games out there. Is there an Iowa in the mix?
Oh, on the Illinois schedule? Hold on.
No. On Indiana's schedule.
Oh, yeah. So we play Illinois at home, and then the very next game is on the road at Iowa. Yeah,
if you win both of those games, that would mean Illinois is probably an 8-9 win team, still probably in top 25. Iowa, I think, is a 7-ish, 6-7 win team. Like, they're okay, but as long as you're
in between there either, by the way. Those are back-to-back.
Yeah, which is a tough back-to-back slate to begin Big Ten play because those are the first 2 league games, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's considerably tough. But if you're competitive but lose to Penn State and Oregon, but then you have wins over Iowa and they have a good year, and Illinois is good and they just happen to lose that game on the road to Indiana. 10-2 Indiana should be in the college football playoff, provided the rest of their schedule when they play, more bottom feeders is, hey, look, they beat them 42-10.
Well, you heard it here. Spencer McLaughlin says that Indiana heading back to the college football playoff, but who could join them out of the Big Ten Conference? We talk about that next here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. College football, yeah, it's back, and I could not be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's really nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets to go to those games can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, and prices jumping right before you check out. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay, and you're listening or watching this on Friday. Heck, you may be watching this on Saturday morning before you want to go to a game. And if it is last minute, use Game Time. Get on there. See what they got for you. They're going to have the best selection. They're going to have the best prices. And you can do it right now with amazing seats, amazing deals in the Game Time app. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. That's Locked On College for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, we continue here on Locked On Hoosiers. I'm Jacob Goins. Got our guy Spencer McLaughlin with us from Locked On College Football. Make sure you check that out across our Locked On Podcast Network. However you find it.
We got to change that watch next graphic down there. I like Andy and Isaac, but it's football season.
we put it on an equal rotator. We'll put an equal rotator.
Okay.
Gotta get football, gotta get basketball, and it's nothing against you. It's nothing personal.
Okay, just checking. I noticed it down there, bright blue. I was like, whoa. I don't host a bright blue podcast unless Locked On gave me a third show when I wasn't looking.
Well, I don't know about that. Look, if I was better at my job, it would say Locked On College Football down there, but it doesn't. That is what it is. And so, but good thing is you're good at your job, and that is predicting and trying to predict the college football playoff. And maybe not 1 through 12, but teams out of the Big Ten that can make it to the 12-team playoff this year. Of course, formatting a little bit different. It's not the top 4 with the champions of the conference and then the 5th team there. It's 1 through 12. The number 1 team in the country is ranked number 1. The number 2 team in the country, they're ranked number 2, and so on. And so, Spencer, out of the Big Ten, how many teams does this conference put into the postseason, and who are they?
Before I answer that, can we talk about how crazy it is that wasn't the way it was to start?
The fact that I had to explain that, and it's
that the committee realized, hey, wait a minute, if we're ranking these teams in this way, should we just make our rankings be what you are in the playoff? Should that just happen? Should we do it that way?
Also, the fact that they came out, a couple of weeks ago, and they said, hey, we're going to use this advanced analytic thing called strength of record. What a wild thing that was, that they said, we really want to take it to the next step this year.
The Indiana SMU rule is how that felt to me in a very big way. And I didn't actually panic when I saw that. I thought, oh, okay, well, let's see how they react. Because the words that are put on paper there, nothing is actually objectionable. You should be rewarded more if you beat a really good team. You should not be severely punished if you lose to a really good team. I hope they factor in the score of a game. Like, for instance, 2 years ago, Tennessee was consistently ranked in the top 25. They played 2 good teams back to back. That was, I think it was Georgia and Missouri, maybe. I don't know. They lost those 2 games like 76-20 on the aggregate, and they were still in the top 25.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to see that. But yeah, if you go to Georgia and lose on a game-winning field goal, why would your ranking change?
I mean, you lost.
Like, yeah, the result, okay, you can drop us, but I frankly think we already have that, though, is the interesting thing. But then they're saying, well, you won't be rewarded as much for beating lesser quality opponents, but you'll be punished more for losing to those lesser quality opponents. And I said, wait a minute. you already get really punished for losing to a lesser quality opponent. They just punished Ole Miss and left them out of the playoff. Yeah. Why? Because they lost to Kentucky, who sucked.
At home in Oxford.
At home. Like, yeah. So yeah. I that's why, again, it could wind up benefiting the SEC wildly and changing everything. But I read it and went, I don't know, I feel like we're already doing this, aren't we? Like, I don't know why. Now, that begs the question, why release that if you aren't going to actually change something? Okay, but let's get a year of data first. That's why one of the many reasons I'm anti-playoff expansion. Can we watch a 12-team playoff for 5 years and figure out if we need to go to more teams?
Yeah.
Like, the moment it expanded, we went to, oh my gosh, we got to get to 16. We got to get the Big Ten's going to throw out a 2016, 2018, all this stuff. And I'm like, can we watch like a couple of seasons with normal seeding for a 12-team playoff and then decide what's best for the sport? Probably not. So back to your question about the Big Ten. So I think any 10-win Big Ten SEC team is going to get into the playoff. I don't think that is really going to change. You know, if Indiana had been 10-2 last year, maybe they would have been left out because they not only would have lacked one more, like let's say they lost to Michigan, you know, but still beat everybody else. Well, suddenly you're really lacking for a quality win. You've got a second loss to an unranked Michigan team at that point. That probably, maybe they would have been top 25. That could have gotten them left out. I don't think with this schedule, Indiana gets left out at 10-2. I don't think if Illinois goes 10-2, provided they beat Duke. Do not overlook that game in week 2.
Yes.
Do not. Duke is a good football team. They
dark horse in the ACC.
100%. Duke and Georgia Tech are ACC dark horses. I hear pundits all the time say the ACC just lacks competitive depth. I'm like, are we just slapping Georgia Tech and Duke in the face? Like, I look up and I see 5 teams in the ACC that could go win the conference championship this year. I think Clemson's going to.
Yeah.
For sure. But to say that there aren't teams that can go, actually, I could think of 6 off the top of my head that could rise to that level. Duke, SMU, Miami, Louisville, Clemson, and Georgia Tech. All of those teams, I think, are good. And they were good last year, by the way. So, anyway, if Illinois were to go 10-2, and let's say they lose to Ohio State, Indiana, but they beat Duke and beat everybody else, I think that's probably in. Ohio State, I think there is real value in the under 10.5 wins for Ohio State, by the way, because they have to go to Illinois. They have to go to Michigan. They have to play Texas this week. I think they're going to lose that game. And they've got to play Penn State, who I think is really good. I think it's perfectly reasonable they could lose 2 of those football games. But I think Ohio State gets in at 10-2. I think Oregon's at least a 10-win team, probably a 10-win team. I just don't quite know where the second loss comes from yet. But I get the sense that it is out there. Their win total just dropped from 10.5 to 9.5. At home, we'll see. But that's a discussion for a later day, or one we've actually had in the past. You go check it out on this feed way long ago in the off season. So, but hey, there's Google. It's not that hard to find. I'm not a believer in Michigan this year. I think Michigan's going to be really good next year. This year, they lost one of their starting offensive linemen not that long ago. They're starting a true freshman at quarterback. I don't think Michigan's a horrible team. Under 9.5 wins, please. I don't think Michigan's a playoff team. So, going back to your question, how many get in? I'll settle on 4. I think Penn State, they're my preseason number 1 team in the Big Ten. So I think Penn State is getting in. I think Ohio State and Oregon are probably in. I don't know if they're the same national title threats they were a season ago. And then I'll take either Illinois or Indiana to get to 10-2. I've got Illinois personally, but that's just because my love affair with the Illini has been well documented at this point. So I don't know what's a better story of romance and connection, Spencer and Illinois or Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. I'm torn between the two.
We've gone all week without mentioning that on this show and having nothing to do with that.
You're welcome.
Here we are.
See, I'm not going to mention it on any of my shows, and it's never going to pop up, but this is your show, and I'm not putting this on my feed, so
that's SEO
my listeners are safe.
That's an SEO king. This video is going to dominate YouTube because you mentioned Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. So
yes, you're welcome.
Before I let you go, if you had to pick a team that you didn't already name that could or will make the playoff in the Big Ten, who is it and why? A team that nobody's talking about, a team that isn't favored or could make it, just a team out there that if they just have a magical season, who is it?
I'm going to pick one of two with an honorable mention. Washington is honorable mention. They're a very trendy pick. I'm not there yet. I don't think their trench play is ready. I really don't. Okay. I think it'll be improved, but they are starting from the literal bottom. Okay, they couldn't stop the run. They could not protect their own quarterback. They couldn't run the ball consistently. No, not yet for Washington. Year 3, if Jed Fish stays, okay, you can talk me into that. I'm going to go with Nebraska or USC. And I know that the USC narrative is not particularly positive. Nebraska, I think, is the trendier pick at the moment. Do you realize what USC needs to get right to be closer to being a playoff team? By the way, USC went 2-0 against the SEC last year.
Yeah.
But do you know what they actually have to fix?
Scoring or actually stopping people on defense?
No, you had it right the first time. Their offense needs to get fixed.
And they got talent.
They have to be more consistent, and they have to be better situationally. They were not last year. Their defense took huge strides. They have some good players on that. Kamari Ramsey is one of my favorite safeties in college football. He is an absolute dude. So if I expect 5-star Jakeem Stewart to play for them this year. Freak of a physical specimen. If USC, that was horrible in one-score games, they went 6-6 in the regular season last year, literally 2 plays from 8-4. How would you feel about them going 8-4 last year, building towards this year? Like, Danton Lane's a real defensive coordinator. The results showed that. I think the personnel is solid. And again, this is dark horse, not expected sort of pick.
Right.
Nebraska, I've got the trust issue with, I think Nebraska is a good team. Playoff, I don't know.
Schedule's cake.
But yes, it is. Lincoln Riley has to fix the quarterback situation.
Yeah.
They changed starters in the middle of last year because they said Miller Moss isn't good enough. I didn't think he was the problem, but they didn't view him as the solution either.
Yeah.
So Lincoln Riley's got to fix the offense, and USC is probably a top 20 composite talent team in the country. Yeah, I'll take the Trojans there over Washington. I know Washington beat them on their home field last year, but that was one of those games. Michigan and Washington, 2 plays. Now, same core problem. They weren't good enough up front, but they have made adjustments in that realm, and I think they're better. So if USC can get better trench play, I think the Trojans are interesting. Nebraska will be there because their schedule is favorable.
There you go. Several teams out of the Big Ten could flirt with the college football playoff. Spencer has 4 making it to the college football playoff. And the Hoosiers, to start their run to the playoff, got to get through the Monarchs first. I talked to you about the Old Dominion Monarchs right after this. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Upside. Hey, Locked On Hoosiers fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code to get an extra 25% or 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. The promo code is football. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas that you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, as a lot of things are, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commute, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for amazing and Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app right now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time 25-cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. All right, final segment here on today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here, truly making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. And we thank our man Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football for joining us. Be sure you check that show out, a part of our Locked On Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcast. And now we talk Indiana and Old Dominion, where, look, I understand. Indiana's favored by almost 24 points in this game. Indiana's a much better team in this game, and Indiana will absolutely not lose this game. I do feel, though, that the spread is a little low for me. I don't really understand if this is a love for Old Dominion or maybe some hesitancy for the Indiana Hoosiers. I mean, I look around, Penn State's favored by 43.5 over Nevada. I know there's a little bit of a difference between Indiana and Penn State, but just some of these teams, even in the Big Ten, that are just heavy favorites. I mean, Illinois, 45-point favorites tonight against Western Illinois on a Friday. I don't know, man. I'm not really sure why there's a whole lot of disrespect for the Hoosiers, but I'm taking the over with our friends at FanDuel at 23.5 because listen to this. Old Dominion had quarterback problems last year. They had two dudes trying to figure it out. They played a guy in the beginning. They played a different guy in the middle, and then they played another guy in the end in the bowl game. Or not the bowl game, but down the stretch rather. And they bring their quarterback back from a year ago. Okay. Colton Joseph is the name that you need to know. He's also, fun fact for Old Dominion, he's their leading rusher from last year that's returning this year. He's the leading returning rusher, that is. And so this Old Dominion team brings back only one receiver from last year who caught a pass on this team. Defensively, they're fine. They have a 7-year starter at the center position. That's kind of cool if you want to think about some fun facts there. But this is a team that didn't make a bowl game last year. They were 5-7 a year ago. They did beat 4 teams, however, that went to a bowl game, but the Hoosiers are better in every way. This is a pure week 1 cupcake game for the Hoosiers. It's middle of the afternoon. Nobody else is going to watch it except us, but that's okay because we'll have you covered right here on Locked On Hoosiers. This game is all about Indiana. It has nothing to do with Old Dominion. They're not coming in here. They're not going to win. They're not even going to compete for more than a quarter and a half. The Indiana Hoosiers will roll, but we do get to see an opportunity to see what the depth chart looks like, what the rotation looks like, especially on the offensive and defensive lines. We get to see what the secondary rotation looks like, maybe who that true third, fourth, fifth receiver is going to be as well. Is it truly Kalen Black, Roman Hemby, Lee Beebe Jr. at the running back position? And then do you get Mendoza squared in this game? Do you see Fernando, of course, get the start and maybe someone else, maybe his brother comes in and gets a little playing time at the quarterback spot as well? This really is get the first game jitters out of the way, get all the mistakes out of the way. There's going to be some miscommunication and some hiccups and some things, and you're not allowed, or I guess you're allowed to. I'm telling you not to stress, okay? I'm telling you not to worry if something doesn't go perfect in this game. Curt Cignetti has talked about this before, how it's week 1 and there will be mistakes, and the idea is to learn and clean those up and do it again in week 2 and then do it again in week 3. That's why it's going to feel right these next few weeks, the first 3 weeks for us, it's going to feel relatively the same in terms of what to go into these games expecting. It's to be fairly clean, be better than you were the week before. Maybe you do get some different rotations. Maybe you do have somebody coming off the bench at the DB spot or the linebacker spot that didn't play as many snaps the week before. That's kind of where we are with these sort of games, and you hope that they're not close. You hope that you don't have to stress right in the third and fourth quarters, and I truly don't think that Indiana will, but it will be awesome to see this team back in the stadium. The stands are going to be full. Big recruiting weekend for football and for basketball, right? We told you about Taylon Kinney taking a visit this weekend, also about all the different kids from 27, 28, and beyond who are going to be visiting for the football program as well. That is one of the benefits, I will say. One of the benefits of having your first 4 games played at home, yes, but 3 of them being against these non-Power 5 or P4, just G5 or below type of teams, is you are able to hopefully focus a little bit more on the recruits than you normally would. That Illinois game is going to have a ton of kids here, but the Hoosiers are going to be locked in. Curt Cignetti is going to be locked in. The entire coaching staff is going to be locked in. These types of games, it's a little bit more laid back, and especially after the game, you've got some more time to do those things. And so, look, I'm going to take Indiana here. I'm taking Indiana 48, 48-10 is kind of what I'm feeling on this. I think the Hoosiers will light it up early. I think they'll take the foot off the gas, but it won't be an issue. And I just think this defense for the Hoosiers is going to get after it. I got 48-10 Indiana over Old Dominion. That would be the Hoosiers definitely covering. That would also be covering the over-under, too. So if you want to flirt around with that with our friends at FanDuel, be sure you go and check that out. But as long as you get in and get out and get the win, nobody gets significantly hurt, then we're good to go and we're good to move on. And so that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. And hey, we will be going live right after Indiana and Old Dominion finish up this on Saturday afternoon. Tomorrow, that is, we'll be going live on the Locked On Hoosiers YouTube channel. So be sure that you check that out. Come and hang out with us. Drop your thoughts. Drop your comments. We want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. See you right here on the Locked On Hoosiers YouTube channel coming up tomorrow after Indiana and Old Dominion. Okay, we are back tomorrow for a live show and a normal show on Monday, Hoosier fans. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.